he went to took so many different types of births, purely motivated by bodhicitta to benefit beings in like various realms. For instance, where the lifetimes where he was born in the hell realms, to liberate beings from the hell realms, when he was, through born as an animal in many cases, all with the pure intention to benefit. And it was all of these lifetimes of cultivating bodhicitta, working for the benefit of others, that led to his complete awakening. So if we have bodhicitta, if we cultivate bodhicitta, then even if we think we don't, even if there's not the intention to awaken, even if there's not the intention to attain Buddhahood, we will attain Buddhahood. We will awaken naturally as a result of bodhicitta. On the other hand, if there isn't bodhicitta, if we're really just focusing on ourselves, or we're kind of, operating from a mind of self-interest, and if we think, oh, I want to attain Buddhahood, we won't be able to awaken because we're hindered by that mind of self-grasping. So everything really comes down to motivation, the purity of our motivation. And so when we practice, it's really important that we direct our mind with really strong intention to the practice. On the other hand, sometimes if we're practicing Dharma, and our body is sitting, but our mind is completely caught up in ordinary concepts, we're following after thoughts of attachment and aversion, and we're really not invested in, from our heart, from our mind, in the essence of the practice, then our practice will just become something that furthers, samsaric experience. It won't be something that actually leads to liberation. It's not liberating in nature. It doesn't lead to awakening. And so as long as we're really just focused on, wanting to be comfortable, wanting to be happy, wanting, to succeed at the things that we want to succeed at and so forth, then, our practice isn't really serving the intended purpose. I think I ended up, so then she mentioned, again, I think I got kind of mixed up where she talked about actually here, the example of the Buddha, who, endured a lot of hardship, in many different situations, all with the intention to benefit beings. And so when we practice Nyungne, for instance, when we're doing the practice, then we really take delight in the practice. This is the definition of diligence. So diligence is, so we apply diligence, and we practice patience. And when we're again and again turning our mind to that really strong inspiration and pure motivation, then even if we, sorry, I keep jumping ahead of myself. Okay, so I'll go back to what she said before. So she said, right now when so it's difficult. Nyungne is not necessarily an easy practice. We're really kind of stretching our capacity, and so it requires us to have patience. It requires us to have diligence, and also knowing that we're doing this with the intention to benefit. Thinking of so much suffering that we witness in the world. There's a lot of suffering from war, and people are starving. So many people who died from COVID. A lot of pain and suffering in the world. And when we're practicing for that, with that in mind, to benefit those beings, when that is the motivation, we're really generating love and compassion, then we really delight in the practice. We take joy in it. And that's the real definition of diligence. Diligence, the way diligence is defined is it's delighting in the wholesome. It's delighting in virtue, taking joy in the practice of virtue. So it's actually joyful. It's not difficult when we approach it in that way. And so then when we're practicing like this, when we're doing Nyungne, which is requiring us to stretch a little bit, then when we might be hungry, but we don't feel the pain of our hunger. It's not painful, it's not difficult. Or, we feel the thirst, but the thirst is not painful, it's not difficult. So it's really an opportunity to purify the mind, to set ourselves in a really purest of intentions, and to do some really, profound practice. Everything determines, or everything is dependent upon the mind.
아니 Nyungne 다 간시나 다 남주 냐와 예다 든저도 쉬쉬에데레 한거죠 시시가 다시 많은 돈돈 쩔쩔카레 예나야 다 냐와 예다 든저데 다 레마다 냐와다 예다 든거죠 그 대리 좀 띵터금도 변정 야드는 다 간시나 산이 뭐서 Nyungne 데 값으라 아니 카콤드레스 카콤드데 다 남주 예다 그 지금 그 동할도 쉬위 요를라데라 예다 그 지금 그 동할 요를다 예다 지와len스는 쉬위 요를라데 맞도 시다 이치 지금 말해 띵야로 요는 맞다 이치 시다 지금 말해 다 무슨 Nyungne 데 인데 값으라 되네 다 동리시나 되게 요래 간시 다 수수 카콤거라 카콤도 다 예다스니 딘데도스 디네데 다 예다네 버심지 탐지 나 드랭 카콤들에게 엔 코란도 참마 예다 그 지금 그 서효 딘데지네 네 냠네 제소에나 데 코란서라 피 수소라 예다 그 지와 멀리 데 Nyungne 가레스나 가레송은 Nyungne 린지 되나 아니 가르쳐서 현내 렌지 되나 아니 니송선 메치송이 니송선 라이데 가른데 데르시네 냐와 예다 든조스는 데데요라 다 냐와라 마치 든조라 마치 예다라 마치나 무소 마치나 데소야 히라 다 드서 찍지는 무소 강해요라 데인데 소카 검나 데니 지금 그 동할 때 서서히 서서 하고와 그리고 또나 아니 예다게 냐와 예다게 되네 차 양디 차와 체 남시 차원의 차원의 체나 어다 저 냐와 차녀 자모차는 자녀 저 그 인선 돈이 코란 그 치든 가서 인선 데 가이데 조시냐면 치는 아니 갈래요 말레스 아니 간신나 다 가르스나 다 보러워나 무슨 Nyungne 데데 칼라사가 말이 쳐통 그 말이 다 데소테 로가리 간신나 무슨 총총 되네다 당보 총총 되네 낭바 인바다 되네 디칼라 검송라 쳐마통은 니마체 쳐마통 니마통 무슨 제야 연구 말이 검송데 다 지제로에나 다 마유서 사야다 동야니 야 망아 지그래 되게 마건데 가래 요래 아니 타지는 게 지나발라 양 강에 정나 쳐마통 라그미다 주로 나스 간신의 양 쳐마통 제 카시부 꼼나 양 조보 강에 전나차는 가래라 간신 들어와 산지게 가래선 산지신인데 빼 탐케를 투지 침보리 들어와 열들톤스 열단 틀라 간신다 들어와 시린데 빼 쉐지 차와 빼 차이 차와 선거래 데인데 다 열다 들던데 다 타제네 초마통로라는 양 미사야 요를 가시게 아카콘나 데 타고요 말에 데인데 지나바게 천추는 데레스 천추 갑살라 양 디나로나 컨나 마추네 보레스 디나나 탑장은 저양 신다라 펜는 추나 간신의 가게 쳐 마추 그래서 양쪽이 쳐 동도 가서 Yang Tongye Zhugri. De Ngaran Tindejin, the Consul Lomata, Chulam Goda, and Susan, okay, that Kuchon Tong, the Namju Church income, the Kuchon Tongson, not pay Chon Tongye Drus and Lagoda. Then that Dipasad Hoyer. Then the young Chinaba Chon Tongo Ke Yuna, it didn't young Tanama Corner, Susu Gawani, and Tongna Jigres.
So another thing that we can kind of connect with, or a way to generate compassion as we practice Nyungne, is, we hear a lot about the suffering of the lower realms, the suffering of hell beings, the suffering of hungry ghosts. We recite the Mani mantra, with the intention, for all beings of the 6 realms to be benefited. But we don't, because we don't have direct experience with the beings in those realms, it's hard sometimes to really relate, like, with what that suffering must be like. And sometimes we don't even really fully believe it because we don't see it. We don't see it directly. And then when we practice in a way that has a little bit of hardship like this, with the practice of Nyungne, and we're hungry and we're thirsty, then we are experiencing a taste, of that suffering that's experienced by the beings in the lower realms. So when we're hungry, or when we're really thirsty, when that experience is really difficult, we can practice Tonglen, or by thinking about the beings, when we're really hungry, we're really thirsty, thinking about the pain of the hungry ghosts, and then thinking, through this experience of difficulty, that may the suffering of the beings of these realms be purified. And today, through my own hunger, through my own thirst, may all that the suffering of hunger and thirst in the world be cleared away. And actually, it is said that, even just doing one Nyungne practice can purify the karmic seeds for taking rebirth in the realm of hungry ghosts, or in the 3 lower realms in general. So the 3 lower realms are the hell realms, realm of hungry ghosts, and the animal realms. And so to not, to really fully purify the seeds of rebirth in those realms, there is nothing, that is tremendous, so to sort of endure a little bit of hardship, with understanding the depth of purification that this practice can provide, then we don't have any real difficulty in that temporary experience of hunger or thirst, thinking, really knowing, just how beneficial it actually is, how much purification can come from it. So any of the difficult experiences that might come up for us, like, if we feel hot, really uncomfortable and hot, think about the beings who experience the heat of the hell realms, or if we're feeling cold, think of the level of the difficulty and hardship experienced by beings in the cold hell realms. And then we can really feel inspired, or sort of encouraged or courageous in our practice, that we can take it on, we can endure this little bit of difficulty or hardship. So one thing is, in Tibet, they do practice Nyungne on the 2nd day, the day of fasting, in such a way that they fast completely from food, and they also fast from water, so they don't drink water. Now, she said she realizes that there's a cultural difference there, because, first of all, from the time that they're very young, they're Buddhists, so there's this kind of deep faith in the practice, and kind of an ability to, to also refrain from drinking water, because also they don't drink water, she thinks, quite as much as they do in the West. So there's more, maybe the attachment might be more to actually eating food, but here she sees that Westerners actually drink much more than maybe the eating. So much harder than giving up the eating sometimes is drinking. And, of course, also there is people have to take medicine, or if there are certain conditions, or if it's really, so she said, you can feel out for yourself what feels doable. If you want to try not drinking water, then she encourages you to do that. But if it gets to be too much, and you know that you need to drink water, then it's okay to drink water. She said the one thing though she asks is that you don't bring a bottle of water into the hall, because there might be people who are trying to not drink water, and she did have that experience where people were practicing Nyungne, and some feedback she received is that people said that who weren't drinking water, they saw other people drinking water, and it made them really, really thirsty. So, if you're gonna drink water, you can maybe do so in a way that's kind of discreet, or go to the Sangha house and drink water there, and try not to, do it in front of your other Dharma brothers and sisters who might be really trying to do this in this traditional way of also not drinking water. But it is okay. The Buddha, she said that, the Buddha has taught the Vinaya with the caveat that, that the Vinaya should be practiced in a way that accords with the place and the time. And so if it is necessary to adjust, then things should be adjusted. And it is, and especially if you have a health condition that requires you to drink water, or if you need to take medicine, then it's important to do so. I think that's it. Yeah. So it's a personal choice. She's going to leave it up to you to decide if you're going to fast, and drink water, or fast from both eating and also drinking.
아니 아까에서나 예다스니들라 다 가르든스나 지금 그 동아요레 베나 쳐제 쳐요라 쳐 통쳐 통쳐 쳐이나 예다 거랑 예다 도나 쳐데 첫째 인바라 콜레마다 마다 차인데 예다 나타 나타 차마도 통게 말이스 라인에 늦은 통거 요레스 매인에 쳐 통거 요레스 거란서 나타마도 통거 요 말이스 대신데 다르레 레난코 레타마다게 제와게 된데 차데 요레스 아니 든도에나 다 가시게 라고레 든도 제와란서 심지 든도 제와란서 빼지보 요사레스고 레간코 레고모도 든도 제와란서 치아당 바죠당 다서라 제와란서 빼지보 사레 지보요 말이 간스나 든도라 리고 그 동harse 빼 강harsa 쳔보요레 그랑게 마시 말이 동고 말이 마시 말이 게자 샘그 삼노데 참마하 삼당거라 벤나 든도제나 나데나 암쳇라 암쳇티야므도 코란 메케 라나마스 데니 메케 거추지 동할란 다 나나 다 나나 쭉 메케 로란 로거리 냐란 냐거리 마 코란라 라와요 마리 니 셈나 강알 빼요리 어데디 추지야라 코란 고갑 요 마리 마시 말 동고 마리 덴데인데 든돌라 거추지 동할시 데니 땡창나다 심지 총총도 갑얀 쳔보선 간득강에 전조보 찬 세야치데 바조도도 총총도 미자 쳔보 차지 세야치 탑시 간득제다 근데인데 든돌 제와랑스나 아니 거추그 동할시 삼지 마차페요레스 네 덴데무서 니 선선나 메체치데 다다 뉴네텔 뉴네 리지자나데니 니 선선나 메체선라 공능에 시바나시
So, it is said that hungry ghosts suffer from such extreme thirst, and because it is their experience, just like the experience of all beings in all realms, is based on karmic appearance. So whatever it is that we experience, whatever appears to us, is the appearance of our own karma manifesting. And so in that way, so for hungry ghosts, even if they come into contact, first it's very hard for them to find water, and then if they do, then they only experience it as like blood or pus, so they don't get any satisfaction from drinking it. They can't take it like water, and so it just becomes a source of suffering. And so in this way, that's because of the negative karmic imprints that are ripening for them in that life. And on the other hand, those beings who take birth in like the Deva realms or as gods, then they experience or perceive water as nectar. Whereas we have the karmic experience to perceive water as water. So depending on the karmic propensity, the karmic imprint, then we perceive phenomena the way that we do according to our karmic imprints. And so some, for animals experience a lot of hardship and suffering. Some say, but actually it looks like, an animal's life is pretty pleasant. They don't have to work. They can just be sort of relaxed. But actually that's not the case if you really observe, how much, first of all, there's a strong kind of shroud of, mental darkness, like a lack of cognitive ability. So, like cows or other animals. And then also they can't speak, they can't articulate, they can't understand, complex meanings. They can't, they don't have any kind of free will, like they can't. Maybe a human who is their owner can take them to the doctor, but they can't make that decision on their own to go seek out like medical attention. So they're completely dependent upon, like the domesticated animals are completely dependent on human beings. So they, and then those who are kind of bound into servitude, that are, they are, beat and ridden by humans who, they have to, go when they're told to go, and can only, lie down when they're allowed to, and so forth. And there's no opportunity for spiritual practice. They can't understand the Dharma if it is spoken to them. And if you think of cows, for instance, and how they're so mistreated, for instance, by human beings. They are injected with all sorts of things to make them grow big, and the whole objective of their life is to be eaten, and then they're slaughtered and they're killed for their meat. So when we reflect in this way, how it actually really is a lot of suffering to be born as an animal, then we can also reflect, on how much benefit there is in this practice, as it says, that it really purifies the causes for being reborn in the three lower realms. And so, when there's an understanding of just how much suffering there is in the three lower realms, we can feel really motivated to purify the seeds for rebirth and in these unfavorable states.
Laso tan dortin shina ma to tsumda. Ten de ngara ina chyo tongnyo yu sinyone de. Ni ma tongnyo yu. Ni ma chunchon de ngaso pe ma mangpo. Bo ni pe mangpo de ra ma changda sa. Ma chung ro kap sa de shwa de chi de. Nyone de ka nga bu chunchon re. Ani nyone cha shis de re. Ta nima je de gora. Nga chunchon pe ka komso. Ani chi mo nilam korang tanga do. Chot so min lan le sha tong. Ani ya la chot pe mang bo tong. Ante chi selo chot tong. Ani ya hyokpa ni lang nin ro gora pe ngo cha so. Ta lama ya yog de ra. 당아들은 쳤던데 카드도 파자하 거대들사 배 못사서 탑지미도 야데 난 전에 다 자다와니 본 뉴네 마트그라 뉴네 마트가 다 지란도 칼라상 키단들은 쳤던 게 유에선서 nga ngotan 다 건가하 거드선서 nga 라파자임바 치초 지란 쳤던 벨라스 내 쳤던 gondanga 쳤던 거 니람 코란 탄선라임바 nga penjat서 지란 마마판들란 배 ngot사선라서 nga 뜻나시 nga라이나 쳤던 요스 뉴네데 부춘촌데 네데 고 처마도나 양 검도야도
Yeah. So she said she just wanted to share. So first of all, she said, we don't have a ton of time, so she can only really kind of give us like a brief overview of things. But she wanted to share that she has actually broken down and drank water during a Nyungne. And she was small. She was a child. And at that time in Tibet, they were doing like an 8 or a 4. It's like called like a 4 pair Nyungne, which is actually 8 days, meaning because it's alternating. It's like a day of fasting and partial fasting and then fasting, and so you alternate like that. And she was so thirsty, so thirsty, and she had this dream she was even dreaming of drinking water. And so she got up, and then she just like couldn't resist it, and she just went and drank like a ton of water. And then they had the morning session, and she walked into the temple, and she was so embarrassed, and she thought, oh, surely the Lama knows. He sees it on my mouth. He knows I drank water. And she was really embarrassed. And then at the end of the Nyungne, he asked, did any of you drink water? And she thought, oh, he knows I drank water. And so she raised her hand, and she was like, I did it. I drank water. I had a dream, that I wanted to drink water, and I did. And then her relatives were like, oh, you shouldn't, that's so embarrassing that you said in front of everyone that you drank water. But anyway, she just said that, she knows it's really difficult, and she herself has also felt that she needed to drink water but she said it does get easier. So it is a matter of becoming accustomed to, or kind of habituating yourself to, and then it does get easier and easier, especially if you're doing many. And yeah.
라서 나 가인스는 산이 디 쳇단게 안녕네게 돈바테 데 메자 포모 클리아리스 이나야 따따 뇽네 초아테 자주 다 주데 제여라 주데 지시나 사주 남절라 남에 바주인데 지나 자주라 빼잔다고 그래서 아니 잔다고도 다다님 파 휴견 리사르 가이스나 산이 퍼폼 또야당 메이크업 마포 쪽야다 시몬 총야다 데니 팅와라 진짜 따야다 깨라 진짜 따야다 소 초마레스 데니 조포 장마야 포트 자주라 빼장다 고레스 데인디 나지 저거 추추 추데 가레스나 카셰상고 그때 가레나스 다탄데스 휴견 데 가레스나 모토겐 조추스 이랑아추 다 라파 강방고 이랑알라 고다 라파니 강바 데데네 촐로그리 어데 나게 데니 데나 잼네 추드럽 자데 데니 고단 강바 라파라 로그리 데는 조추스 조포크트야다 조추 어데 치데르데니 데데 게자 산이시에 저리 시에와이나 추그 거마도 이제 그 거다 차당 거다 레가 거데도 시다 마시로스 아니 드로브 갑살라 베 셔진더와 랑친당 낭바 드 장앙바 드르나 베
Oh, okay.
낭바 드다 랑친 드르라 장ang 바다 아니 란치 로드 가래 로다 진짜 저 진짜 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 쉐시 대바 진짜 진짜 거래스
Um, so tomorrow we will begin with the vows, the precepts, the 8 precepts, and they are the 8 precepts of that we can take also as non-ordained, but they are similar to they are the same as those primary 8 precepts that are taken by the ordained. And also this practice, it is a it's a Kriya yoga practice. So we have the 4 classes of Tantra. So there's Kriya Tantra, Charya Tantra, Yoga Tantra, and Anuttara Yoga Tantra. And with Kriya Tantra, cleanliness is very important. So we really are observing, kind of purity and cleanliness. And so you want to make sure that things are very clean, that your body is clean, that you're, kind of the aspects of the shrine and all of those things are clean. And when we take the vows, so please tomorrow make sure that you don't wear perfumes, that you don't wear makeup, you don't, make your cheeks or mouth red, that you don't paint your nails, that you really, that you bathe, so you're clean, and then we have also this practice. So when we enter into the meditation hall, where we do what's called the kind of swift cleansing. And so that is with the water and the vase water with saffron. Then we wash our 5 limbs, so the head, the 2 hands, and the feet. And so that's kind of like a quick kind of cleansing ritual that happens before you enter into the meditation hall in the morning. And also and also you take some and you swish it around your mouth and then you spit it out. So we'll do that. And then tomorrow we do still speak. We can still speak tomorrow. On Sunday we will be in complete silence. And it's really important that we observe that. If hopefully, this is a closed retreat, so hopefully people won't be coming onto the property and trying to engage. But if they do, then you just can signal that you can't speak. I'm sorry, I'm adding this part. Drbanla didn't say this, but you can signal to them that you can't speak and you really observe silence. She said, tomorrow, even though we're speaking, we should really try to be mindful about our speech. So meaning that we don't engage in conversation that's based on attachment and aversion. We don't gossip. We don't talk about worldly things. We don't talk about our jobs. We don't talk about our, those kinds of things. That we really keep our discussion, our conversation to the topic of Dharma or kind of necessary communication. And also, when we move and we walk, we're really practicing mindful awareness of our movements. So when we walk, it said, you walk slowly. She said, like an elephant or like a duck. So if you think about, kind of like the movements of a duck or an elephant, we are kind of, moving more slowly, and that our actions, the kind of movements and activity of our body and speech are, peaceful and calm and more subdued.
And it true because yan tong ma yilang atu chitang yilang atu la gore yilang atu je kasala ani ni mo bdba shize dba kya je dba tamji sang ta sang sam tinde chin sam ta
New moon le dang shija
ni mo bdba shize dba kya dba ta ne ani sang shirgo na shi pe sher na shi ta sam te tong ka kan shi da tata chaju te ani chirtang ke sani chani sobjong domba trera sobjong domba de chirtang ke meja pomo treyare sang maje pad sanyi mama sha padra de endu yina ya ti chaju ke pecha de korani nyamde nyamse linde tikchi sobjong tikpa chimbo ke sobjong cha de yores o de endu ni de ta dinana chen tobo do ya gan cha ya le lin ya yi dan ya ni ta kala ka si de ka kampo chana ma ho ma yin ba koran ran yi ge yi wa ka
So
kampo ma
di young
de jo na de res
Oh,
de
okay,
jo na
that's
de
all.
res
Yeah.
ma to ya ma ho ta se mo de so ma jo na ya po yo de
Yes.
ka she jo de ja ran shu da ma jo na de jo na de res
That's all. So you can also, when you do the cleansing of the 5 limbs, so when you take the base water and it's poured on your head and your hands and your feet, you can have the inner visualization that this is cleansing the obscurations, in particular the karmic obscurations and the obscurations of afflictive emotions and the more subtle level cognitive obscurations. So there can be that kind of intention in receiving that cleansing ritual. And that you can think that you know, all of those obscurations, those defilements are purified, and you become like radiant and clear like a crystal. And since we're practicing, you know, as she mentioned, this is a Kriya Tantra practice, and we're taking the Sojong vows, but for lay practitioners, male and female lay practitioners, and we are which that means is, you know, as opposed to an ordained person, the vows are taken in a temporary way. So meaning like from now until tomorrow, and then being that it's Kriya Tantra together with this practice as Sojong, it is also then in like a Mahayana practice, a Mahayana version of the practice. So also another one of the vows is that we don't sit on high thrones, we don't dance or sing or engage in sort of like entertainment and sort of purposeless distractions. And she said when she did mention, you know, that we don't wear makeup, like, so, you know, you don't want to wear lipstick or stuff with like red kind of lip gloss. But if your mouth gets dry and you need some chapstick, you know, or something like that, you can use like clear lip gloss to moisten your lips, you know, or if so, she said some people are really used to that. I know I am. So you know, if it's helpful, especially if you're not drinking water, then you're allowed to use that.
na so tini gelong pa mo ke loji dorte je shuna samsong kan na loji de yang shi so na su so ke te pa ta yi chi ta je ta nyungne chongsa de ta gelong pa mo ni chong re tini kong tang bo gelong pa mo te ani kong ti japo inda bo de ke se mo chi ni tini kong chong de pen ji shen tan do pa
Singmo?
pomo karang pomo ani tatina na karis nam thar mang po do loji de pe mang po ngen dor de je bar pe mang po do kong ani kong se mo pen ji shen tan do pa pe nyeng je po san je ta jar po yin pa te pomo de pe ani ta karis na jagar jana paya kasaka ne moran nyeng je o yutsam nama tero lam do ani nama tero la te ani kong nama droya ke nga dro mes ta ko wa sen de pe kale kapo ta lin je de mul top de ta je chu ma je na nga ani mul lin je top de chu ma je na Then Mulu Nipa Tomata Hako Maris. Then doing a chansa jaya la dupa meduson, then con the yap the yum shudo. Tan dordu to show no. Oh, yap the yum should then yap the yum that chiran dupa is. Chiran carisana, chiran dupa rimaton, so touch you to Marilanda. And you con lama mampoche latin pe carisna. Che Rikbenengal, Ben Keba, in the Chaya. Chat in the Jetini, Joan and Moran Gelhon, my shoe. That Gelhon be trim Dombora, some trim subject of just Saxon Yuri, Gelhon, Saxon Pacha user, Tama to him. There's a Tama try to travel song to the Gelhon, my shoe, and the Jedi. Any that ngotsok nambakala na les nite moran la leg nabar mi ba main en zene ke na sa na sha ze sinyete chetang nga ke ta kande zobot kansan ma to ya tende je na je tene kang ba tang zomo chama che che ne tene kala tang kala sa kapsala ta tundo Simchig Sarna, she ma gogajin saya mato, lapa kayal in the samata, lapa court and the chado, Zoma samako, Tindetje.
So Ganesa Gogade?
Simchi to dog Sarna, she kagan the saya, lapa samata, the cha. And the moran la yomo yapodo, that moran jamok semo imba, de la that coriora. Same the Yomo yapo take yomo take pe ropaja. Then japotazo, cortazo, more yap and the japoris, that moran and zenet and the doponan, that milk chale jasari chin, zat and jagalua, kangba za, ya, so read za kangba. Jagalua, the dead or za kangba not there. That's Zuba Tama na Jap and Richin. Tambote Sonjana.
So she also thought she would share with us a little bit about, the kind of story behind where this practice comes from, and which is the story of Gelongma Palmo, who, it is said that this is where the Nyungne practice originated. That she's really the source of this practice. So Gelongma Palmo was, I think the Sanskrit name was actually Legmankara, and she was the daughter of King Indrabhuti, so a princess. But there are some differing stories. There are many different like historical accounts of her life that kind of vary. But then, and there's also really extensive stories, about Gelongma Palmo. But in brief, she was a princess, the daughter of King Indrabhuti. She was extremely beautiful. And good-natured, and she was kind of really renowned throughout the land for her beauty and good qualities, and so she was sought after, by many powerful suitors from many different countries, like India and Nepal and China and all of the different kingdoms of the time, and she was completely uninterested in marriage. She, knowing that it was, that the difficulty and hardship of, just continuing with ordinary cyclic existence or samsara, she didn't want to waste her human life. So she thought, if I don't use this opportunity now to really practice the Dharma, who knows if I'll have the opportunity again in the future. So she really was just interested in spiritual practice. And she went to her parents and told them that she didn't want to get married. And they told her that it was really up to her, that they wouldn't make that decision for her, that it was her choice. And so she decided to become a nun, to take ordination, and she, received many pith instructions from different spiritual teachers, different lamas. She became really well versed in the 5 sciences. She was like a really brilliant and a very extraordinarily intelligent woman, and she became a nun, and then she took the vows of full ordination. So she held the 363 vows of a fully ordained nun, and she was really precise in keeping those vows, like down to the most kind of subtle details. But she, as a result of the power of her practice, her virtue, she had some strong karmic ripenings that arose for her, and she ended up becoming sick with leprosy. And she became really, really ill. Digits of her body, her fingers and different limbs started to rot off. And she couldn't, she couldn't walk properly. She couldn't use her legs. She couldn't eat with her hand. She had to eat like an animal, with her mouth, because she could no longer use her hands in a normal way. But she had a really good attendant who was very faithful to her and really looked after her, that she had, because she was a princess, and so she had this wonderful attendant, from who had been with her, from before, and she had to live. Eventually, she had to live so she was in solitude in a like grass hut, and she just got sicker and sicker. Mm-hmm.
라서 되네 콩 니마텔라 답에 마데서 차나 잡든데 강을체 답에 냠네 쳔보 된저제 되네 치모텔라 모랑 가르체데서 제포 인담보드 게다 신질랍선선 물람땅도 물람땅데 콩 물람땅데 물람도 가르년데서 다 니모텔라 얘기 좀마 얘기 좀마란 진에서게 오만에 빼매홍 대도 치모텔라니 다다 뇽네게 다다 조레 산인동거 대아톰 다라다라들어서는 요리 뇽네게 송제 된저제 또네 네 콘냠네 된저제 된저 냠네 제 진에서 카사빠네 다 로초리 요리테 진에서 육사제는 카사빠니 데나 콘송아 말람타 데나 말람타 조포 참마 디 셔나시 자서 말람타도 아니 덴데체 말람타데 모란 쇼파레데 티 사카레스나 나차당 데소테 총는 로샤 로드니 다 모란섬도다 데네 오네 지네세 샤르다다 차송 진도 육사 지네세데나 ngan jila drogo to tanga tena nyamne chen drogo to je ani drodo ni shingna pal ni
So
morso
shell
bata
tong yore nyamne chebe ka
ye mlam tang re
milam
ani tinde chen nima chela ta khasa pani sisa te kawari lan ke cha chen drodo
kasa pani cha tong chik tong rebe
cha sa tong jin tong ke yuksan ro re sa chan ro Tene dina som mo tende ta kongke tende je sorwa ta jar tende je lo ma po je tende sorwa ta mona de the mo kaptu dor de pa chi shoin kaptu tang do chira nga na kap sne nga la ro pa ma je ta par de kare re son kaptu tang do ani sanje ke kong kare sne kare son sna Chirang tangpo nyamni chiyo kapsa nga yores. Yina yang chirang dripa, ta leji dripa. Soso la ta ngoso ke le la wala le. Soso na le la ngoso nangbay na le ke le nga ra. O chirang le ke te majang de nga ma thorum te nga chirang tangbo nyamni je de nyamde yo son o tender
so chene se kasa pani de rekchi rewa
de kong yuksa saja na na ya san chene se kong yuksa saja perna chi yuksa tera o tinna shik chene se ke saja na kong tender malam tare nga tnan roa tender je du tene de
pani de rekchi
saja kong yuksa
So so she really actually just completely devoted herself to practice, in this time when she was suffering immensely from leprosy. And one night she had a dream of King Indrabhuti, who was a very realized practitioner himself. And she received blessings from him in that dream. And in the dream, he showed her the 6 syllables, the 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. And also revealed to her this mantra that is unique to her, that's specific to the Nyungne practice, which we will read. It's a kind of longer recitation, a mantra, a dharani, the Nyungne dharani. So she showed that this appeared to her in a pure vision and a dream, and then she started to practice it. And she started to practice essentially like also together with fasting and this practice of Nyungne. And she had a vision of Chenrezig where she was led in to the land of Kasarpani. And she had a vision, a full vision of the 1,000-armed, 1,000-eyed Chenrezig. And when she woke from this dream, she was significantly better. Her illness was significantly diminished. And dini di milam shimba che yore milam che milam che. And in this dream also, and so she let's see. She traveled to so then following this dream, she had she supplicated and practiced for actually she had been practicing for many years, and then she got much better, but she didn't nga tes go tom song gain sena dango then that the young the milam la tene the tes da yore or the ngun la da yore
dasin
or the nasa numero do
ana malam jo la sanna shopa china malam tangra ta tendre che nga tana drogo to tendre che ngara la son san malam tangra sanna de ta mo nasa pe khup chembora te so ko chama ko sinam te se nasa de nyong ro
yine yang dini the gari chini khachu thang yore gain sena milam la tene dini
te ta nga thosnda te gain se tene tendre che tene jo ne marang te nyamle chi tata dinjek la re dinjek khaisna dinjek lan dinjek rang che la de marang ke te nyungne te nyamle che de te nipa te nyamle che ra nimo te ra man ava lo ke thora ke man chimo te la ni te nyungne ke zore ten de dinjek la che ma pon pen nan duksa chik la de te lo nga de res then do nini more then nasa nyon ro any nasa nyon ro cha ne kapsala ni somo to so ya char ya che ni jene se shar ngus njares shar ngun sin jand ta kong kapju tan moran pes topa to lo char any kapju tan ta ngo to nam na hi chirang nga kange petresos nga na pe ma po na cha tende ches chirang ke nga tampo ni ma ja kare kapju tan ani jene ze kare sans chirang tampo dripa nyamne che ka se chirang nga nyam de use chirang ke lech dripat mada nga thong maris dere dingsa karesna ngoto karesna sanje sinete derchik den derni sanje nem songyura dina na karina songyursna chunjog na songyore sanje sinete ko derke sa der na hi drama che payore
So then she continued to practice, and her practice was so intensive. It was what they refer to as the single seat practice, where basically you're sitting on a single seat and you do not move from that seat, like all day and all night. So all day she was reciting the 6-syllable mantra of Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig. And all night she was reciting this Dharani that she had received, that's like specific to the Nyungne practice now. And she continued to get better and better. She was continued to heal, like her digits kind of were restored. She was able to start using her hands again, and she recovered really, to a greater and greater degree from her leprosy. And then she had like so she had these dreams where she had a pure vision, but then she really saw Avalokiteshvara face to face. So he completely appeared to her, like fully, 1,000-armed, 1,000-eyed Chenrezig. And at that point, she was kind of at a high realization. And so she sort of related to him almost like family. And she kind of got upset and was like, where were you all this time? When I was really suffering, why didn't you appear to me then? And Chenrezig said to her, I have been with you the entire time, like even from the very beginning, when you went through, all of the difficulty of your illness, I was there. You just couldn't see me because of your karmic obscurations. So what happened is that then when she fully purified her karmic obscuration, she could see, but he was always there. He was never separate from her. And the blessings were always present. So, and that is how it is, she said, just like, we may not feel that we perceive the blessings of the Buddhas, but they're ever present, just like it says, she said, in the King of Aspiration prayers, in a single atom, there are innumerable Buddhas, or there are as many Buddhas as there are atoms in, the entirety of the infinite realms. And so that is the situation, but we don't see that because of our karmic obscurations.
Topa nyam de sat juni tapsares topa chikpa topa nyam to ni moral nam ta de pe gemola ya chi yore ta de cho na de pe lob jong chempo nyam ne chempo nyim simil na ta ka he na ta nga na son ti se na ta son ti nyam ne che yugra mo mayok chen de che nyam ne che ni jo ne de so changma na cha cha sha de so su cha de che cha jo la ya mora chasa jar
Yeah.
chasa jar ta dam de travel mora travel ne ta morang ke jarpo de so khor de so ka tang de ta nge mai na mora gelhom pa mo shu gelhom pe tram tombora de shu ta nyam ne pe chembo che de che ta ting chang chu ban dam de trap ta nga pa ka cha lo che ho chu ban dam de trap de che ma cha ma kha tang de che ane ta che tang net gong ni shi ba na shi ga za chu me sin la ya tri ka che ge yang ha ma o che ane che ge che do ni che do la do ho te ga za chu ma sa ta ma to zo kha tang mo ra he ma pe cham chim bo ge lo ma ta ting chang yang ma cha ke cha lo chien dam de chap den de che ni ni ma che la ta khong ke te ta ti karesana Mötes topa seriachid. Morang tata ngo pamo imba namba jibzun ruma ani dinjin tata korang chipare gelong pamo jibzun ruma jireze kanisena tata pamo ina ngoto yedamka pamo ina pamo veje mzun yore veje shan ti parta je shan ta kong yang pamo ri la je karesina kong dinjin 당보 게랑 마체 조네 메자 차 드라마는 차 된데 먹가 카탄 마라버데 마차마 마랑케다 잡잡고 잡포린데 코르타마 효라 롬데 지오네 니 마랑 버데 탑 버데 카탕요 카탕 젤라야죠 아니 남칼 파 양만데 된데 파모 베jem zuyore te karisa morang zamchur tin tende chen ani changma yi chimda o ta gelang pamo da sa re mdos tene korang so te pa chi yi chi tene changma khaju jene sa shinkam na shek son sa yore o tende chen pe loji ya po yore no chikar tena kemcha je yore chikar tena pe tende chen ta karisna ngoso ga lagura 라거든 자 똑반 톨리드 속에 창 통화이나 창 쳐라 드정 뭐 지야다 락지야 요말 다 가시 티전 톰 아니 즈네 드니 쪽바자 그마 그 자자 제라 어디 나시다 똑반 톨렸잖아 나 먹게 하마고지 카탄거다 딘데지나 안 코란게 로지테 페링포르 이나야 도르티지 드소미자
So, so she said also, you know, her life story, there's so much. She said she could go on and telling the story about Gelong Mapalmo, but we just don't have that much time. But in her life story, you know, okay. So she, you know, you know, in some, she was showed so much perseverance and so much diligence in her practice. A lot of people, you know, when they, especially when they're, you know, in some cases it becomes difficult to continue on, especially when confronted by something so extremely challenging or difficult, like Gelong Mapalmo confronted, you know, this illness of leprosy. But she didn't, you know, and they even give up, they become despaired or they give up on their practice. But she just continued on, you know, with such perseverance and dedication, and that was really what led to her recovering from her illness. And then a really interesting turn of events happened. She ended up, you know, becoming completely healed. You know, her body was restored to normal. She completely recovered from the leprosy. And she had been such a kind of austere and, you know, like a very, you know, she purely observed her vows for so many years as a monk, and then as a nun, and then she got married. She got married, and she kind of became this very wild yogini. And then people started really criticizing her. Like, so the king, you know, all of the king's sort of ministers and the kingdom and, you know, they were really judgmental and were like, you know, what happened? She was like such a pure nun, and now she's this, you know, kind of crazy, you know, like what, you know, they didn't understand her activity. But she was at an extraordinarily high level of realization. And she, you know, and this is why they say, you know, that like an individual will always only ever see an individual, like an ordinary being can't necessarily see the qualities of an exalted being. And so they see, because of their own obscurations, they see the conduct of, or they see the others as you know, kind of a reflection of themselves. And so they didn't really understand. And so they thought, they were like, oh, why is she's, engaging in all of this strange conduct, and, she really sort of deteriorated. She was so pure and good before. And so it is said that Gelongma Palmo is, she is in essence Vajravarahi. And at the same time, she is also Chenrezig and Aryatara. She displayed this miraculous manifestation because actually they all, the kingdom kind of came together and hunted her down. They actually decapitated her, and they took her head on a pitchfork, and the head rose up into the sky, and then it came down and reunited with her body, and she flew off to the pure realm of Kichara. So you may have seen there is this version of Vajrayogini that has her head cut off. And that is where this comes from. And so she manifested, they saw her as ordinary, they judged her, they were, violently critical of her, and they actually even went to this extent of killing her, trying to kill her, to take her life. And so she, and then she being the realized yogini that she was, manifested this, showed, and then everybody became aware that she was like truly enlightened, and they gave rise to great devotion. And this is, so somebody who has like a high level of realization, even though their conduct may seem, one isn't able to understand. So like, say, for instance, if they drink alcohol, somebody who has a high level of realization, they don't get drunk from drinking alcohol because they transform that alcohol into like nectar, and it's just like drinking water. And so there's no inebriation or intoxication that happens there. Whereas, for somebody who is normal or ordinary, they drink alcohol, they get really drunk, and they fight with one another, something like this. So it isn't necessarily as it appears, and so she really demonstrated this in her sort of wild manifestation as a wild yogini. But this is, she said, it's such an abbreviated, so it feels it's really, she's not able to really go through all of the details of the story, so she's just giving you like little bits and recaps.
아니 팅마직 저 소정거 지바종아 잠잠 찌우기리 소정거 도발링거리 텐트 가르데 소 시니데 가르스네 도바다 탐체냠 송바데 야소 딕바 파종 다야 그치데 어 딘데 진다 산이 소정거 특징거 또 소정 도발링거리 어 딘데 대티시니 조소 당치에서
당치만 송기네 대치 캥기오나나
라서
야
아니 간신나 다당에 시바나시 양 계자망 보시는 것도 배 냠내를 받지 쳔부도 그래 가르송 일스나 니마지는 것도 계자마시나 배 가르스 띵엔지나 배사로 샘사고 차그래 간지 계잔 드라마다 시에되는 티 냠니 때는 받지 때 삼노 양자리한테 콜 어 근데 차그래 된데 잠잠 다단 휴견 야살 잠잠 찬찰 찬찰 맞으면 찬찰와 있나 가게 빼 요번 차거든 요번 차는 아니 자니 마들 로고 빼 떠거든 거란 어떤 냠냠여라 찬찰가를 빼 가르스나 Luke Chancel,
Mm-hmm.
Kaka Nalandra, Kaka Dinandra, Poptu Lare, Jitin Gumpor Chancellor. Then do any Semte, the genus the Avalokit Hora. Then did the Chem some town of the Tavana Pelulu, Jin Tavana, any Zanima dog Mari, Demato Sani Zapimbala Chama Potan, Naniga pet dog, the kinds in the Zopongo Juma Potana, na Samatama Jopo Shodora, or then Zamzam young Chinapa, the Chancellor Matakina, Made, any Pechate, Nyam the law, Zamzam the Genesis. Gom tota nyamne gom sem chalol maeba o tende jen ni sam no tan nyamne jen ya podos.
So she said, so when we take the vows, and we'll take the vows beginning tomorrow morning with the vows that we call sojong, which, and there are different ways of taking these sojong vows, like for, like in different times, special times of the month. So very often they're taken on the 15th day of the lunar month, the full moon. And what there is the so means to restore. So we're restoring, any kind of like broken vows, deteriorated samayas, and dom means to kind of protect or restrain. So we're restoring. It's a practice of restoring and restraining or protecting. So we're protecting or restraining from negativity. We're protecting ourselves, our body, speech, and mind from negativity and defilement. And we're restoring our vows and sacred commitments. So this is the Sojong, like Mahayana practice of Sojong. And it is also, to really practice tomorrow, really limiting your speech, and also then, of course, like completely not engaging in speech on Sunday is tremendously beneficial to the practice, because we sometimes don't even realize how much obstacle is created through speech, to our practice through speech. So when we spend a day in silence, not speaking, or seriously diminishing our speech, we'll notice in our meditation that our samadhi, our meditative absorption, becomes much clearer, much more vivid, much more clear. And that's because there's the connection with speech and thought and wind. So when we speak, then the content of our thoughts is very much connected with that speech. Think about it. You say things, then you go and you sit down, and a lot of what's running through your head is, a conversation that you had, something that you said, or something that was in the context of speech. So when we refrain from speaking, it really has a beneficial effect on our practice. So you can pay attention to that, as we're practicing in this way. And then we'll be doing prostrations. Those of us who can do prostrations, so not everybody can do prostrations, and that's okay. For those of you who can do prostration, she said sometimes, she's observed this, people get really overzealous and excited, and they want to do lots of prostrations. They want to do them really fast. But then if you really do a lot of fast prostrations, on Saturday, you're going to be really hungry on Sunday. So you want to conserve your energy and go slow. And instead of like trying to do as many prostrations as you can, focus instead on the quality of your prostrations. So what you're doing with your mind, you're really holding Chenrezig in your mind, you're generating love, you're generating devotion. And we'll do prostrations, in different groups, and we do it as we're reciting this beautiful prayer, this praise to Chenrezig, Om Jigden Gombo La Chaksal is how it begins in the Tibetan, or I prostrate to the protector to the world protector, Chenrezig. And you know, you do it in a relaxed way, so your body is relaxed, your mind is relaxed, you're going slowly, and you're really directing your heart and your mind to the practice. And then it'll be more beneficial to do it in this way, you know, leading up to Monday, I mean to Sunday, and then also especially, you know, throughout the day on Sunday as well. And so some, you know, some people, if you cannot do prostrations, then you can just continue to sit, and you can really concentrate your mind, focus on the practice, do the recitations. The main thing is to not get caught up in distraction, you know, during this time, to really use the time to dedicate to the practice, to stay single pointed with the practice, and to give up, you know, your outside concerns, your outside thoughts, and really stay focused on the practice without too much distraction, if you can. That's all.
당어서 가르스나 찬차가 갑살라 든지나 든지 라라더니 진에서 아와로게도 차파리 간스 도도 많이 봐 반도 많이 봐 제야도 송야 미봐 나시 차파리 샤르다 다 요는 포대고 말이 나랑 하고 요는 포대고 말이야 요는 포 마데냐 티토라 테서데야 람상 삼노타 베나 셈슬로라 마행게 탑 뭐저 시내나고 셈데 시내 고무 값사이나 것도 셈데 고 셈제제를 내터야 그 답이 지으라 제 진방어라 때 살랑에 가르디게 야야르요라 디나시게 디네 제네세 때 젠드나 던지제 라곰 고 값사 안 드네 던지제 파르텔라 찍다 담보제 벤촌드 마테는 지금 말아 간주유나 하고 말아 디디나 파르테야 뽑벤도 던제 다 아니 데 던제 셈네 차르다 잠잠 잠잠티 뽑도 된도 양 닥기에나 소소 라니 데더니 가르스나 잡송그 나시 던제진 스타트업 줄르게 르그 샤타그랑 지마이 바칸스나 소소게 르그 샤타랑 지제 던제제 곰성아이나 데니 소소는 짐바 쇼기온도 그래 짐바 쇼사나 데니 페나 소소라 nga sininde petsa chembo nga nakendo nga khalajisagona khalashimchi tinge sai tolo yahi tinge kunge kanje tinde jin chakpa chesoina na cha tang kanga mangal dore kaisina ko karesina nga sini danje changma chingde yora anje damne o tinde je ne karena chi sosola 라 곰는 장하다는 저때 착바던 진바 흉침부지에 말이지. 아니 그래서 때 라곰이야다 저때 저 진짜 라마도 선대베 갑살라 라 랭선 총도 아니 툭담 요도 라야지도 다도 장마 디근 진바 소소 그 가시 진바 효선이나 되니 디게 칼스나 나 톡다는 요야다 랭선 초야다 저 연구를 하다
데 슬라 야 보고나
야 라곰다 라스나 도도 많이 봐 자고 그러지
so gungta de tugdam ge ndawa gare
톡담 라마도서 대도가 쪼쪼지네 요다 저 소소지 때마다 매 좋은도 가서 적야 레인도르마다 소소지 대태야 깔리 카보라 어디서다 검자 던지는 가 짐바해서 막게 던진 사리스
so So when we're meditating on the deity, we're mostly here, we're doing frontal visualization, meaning we're meditating on Chenrezig in the space in front. And we're not, when we visualize, we're not thinking of him as like a kind of like solid entity, you know, or like a kind of like of ordinary matter, but that he's like very vivid, very clear, the nature of light, and but empty of substantial nature. So you know, so clearly appearing, but illusory, like not like a like an image on a tanka or like, you know, a statue. And she said she knows from experience, visualization, it's not like we can have a completely clear visualization and just like stay with it. It kind of ebbs and flows. It comes and goes. There are moments, you know, where there's kind of some clarity that comes through, and then we kind of lose the visualization, and then we have to kind of come back to it. And so it's sort of a dynamic process or experience where the consistency, stability of the visualization grows over time. But what we're, you know, what we're doing really is practicing calm abiding, because we're using the visualization as an object, on which, a pure object upon which to place our mind. And so the main thing is that we're placing our mind on this object without being distracted, you know, without kind of getting caught up in our thoughts and our mind, you know, or when we do get caught up in our thoughts, when we do get distracted, we make sure to come back to the object, which is this visualization of Chenrezig. And so what we're doing is we're trying to create, or we're trying to arrive at an experience of single-pointed concentration so that the mind can really rest there with the visualization. And when it does, when we can, the more that we can rest on the visualization also gets a lot brighter. It becomes clearer and clearer. And it might be also, especially if you're not that familiar with the thousand-armed Chenrezig, it's really useful to use a support. So to look, there's a really nice photo here in the book, in the text of Chenrezig. So we can, when we're doing the mantra recitation, when we get to the point, you know, there's a lot of text recitation, but when we get to the mantra, you know, we can sort of alternate between just really looking at the image, familiarizing ourselves with the image, and then, you know, like closing our eyes and meditating on the image. So you can really use this nice image of Chenrezig as a support. And again, when we're visualizing, it's together with the mantra recitation, and it's like in our mind's eye, Chenrezig is clearly appearing, but it, without substantial nature, like a rainbow. And it's important not to think of, you know, like a kind of ordinary, the form of Chenrezig is like ordinary flesh and blood, because, you know, like a kind of actual matter, because then we kind of fall into ordinary concepts and grasping. And in general, when we meditate on ourselves as the deity, we're really identifying with our form as the enlightened form of the deity, not just like an ordinary body of flesh and blood, because that is where fixation arises. And then and actually also when we kind of get caught into ordinary like fixation like this in the practice, then we also have, you know, more attachment in general. So, you know, like wanting to eat delicious food, wanting to wear nice clothes, and then with that grasping, then the practice becomes more difficult. There's more, you know, there's more struggle to, you know, it becomes more difficult or more challenging. So, and that's because it's the mind of self-grasping, because we're, you know, the mind of self-grasping becomes activated. And then, that just sort of further increases the grasping and fixation. And so when we meditate, do deity practice like this, meditating on the enlightened form of the deity, meditating on the generation stage, there's really, some really realized masters get to the point where they completely transform, the ordinary body so that it is no longer like ordinary form. And the signs of this is like when many great masters die, they die in tukdam, meaning they die in the meditation posture. They stay in that posture for a long time. Most people, they would die and then their body would just collapse or fall over. But these really accomplished masters stay, in the fully conscious through the dying process, in the meditation posture. And then they also often produce a lot of what's called ring cell, which are like these little relics or spheres that are a sign of accomplishment. So their body actually produces these ring cell at the time of death. So we already are there. Our time is up. But do any of you have any questions?
There's no prostrations on Sunday?
No, there are prostrations. Yeah, zanima layang chaksao chegyu sarawa. Yeah. Both Saturday and Sunday. Why? You're looking at something that makes you think there aren't.
It says in the text that one should not perform prostrations or circumambulations on the day of silence.
Can you tell me what page that's on?
Page 1.
Tani pecha nangla tani yang the kecha ma shewe the nima the chaksao cheya yo mare kora gya yo mare tanda pecha nangla trido. Shodang dangbo.
남주는 차차야 깨짜시야 요 말이 이나야 때 가격 상고도야 빼차도 야게 차 깨짜는 로야 요 말이 진크도 로야 요리 빼차 진짜 깨짜는
Yeah, and also he said, also just so you know, the silence, the day of silence means we still do recitations. So we still practice the text, we still read the text, and we still do the recitations. It just means we don't, outside of that, we don't engage in ordinary speech. What is one should not perform? Tenedila nga che nimbar kadra merungbe Yidunja ngak che nimbar cha kor yang merungwashi.
Cha
Te cha kor yang merungwashi.
그 차차야 소무도
So actually that doesn't mean, it's a mistranslation. It doesn't mean not prostrating. She thinks actually it's because chak and kor are together here as one word. So usually kora and chaksal are two separate things, prostration and circumambulations. So she says she thinks that this means, because traditionally some Tibetans do a lot of they prostrate as they're circumambulating. So that means like going, to a stupa or something and doing kind of like journeys, prostration journeys where you're walking around, and doing prostration. So that is what she thinks that means there. But it's understandable that it was translated that way. Thanks for pointing that out.
Do I need a microphone? Yes. So, when you mentioned about washing your limbs, you meant that in a ritual, symbolic way? You don't mean we all have to take a shower before we come, am I correct?
Sorry, say that one more time. I got distracted.
I have to repeat that? It's so dumb.
The
I have to
bottom
repeat it
part.
again.
I heard when you wash.
Yeah, so she talked about washing your limbs and your head,
Yeah.
your arms. Is that a symbolic ritual thing when we start, or when you take a shower before we show up?
Oh, well, it is a symbol, so I'm just gonna explain, the 5 limbs, there is actually gonna be someone with a vase.
Right, it's a symbolic ritual kind
It's
of
a
thing.
symbolic
Okay,
ritual, but
okay.
she did say you should also bathe.
Yeah, it'd be a good
Yeah,
idea.
so diniti nima reda la zubo la yang truna ya porebe.
Yapore.
Yeah, it's good to bathe. Which
And
is
then-
interesting, because on some retreats you don't bathe, even for like a month.
And then during the prostrations, we read like page 44. We do that during the whole thing,
Page
while the
44.
prostrations, is that page 44?
Om jigdin gombo la chaksa
Yeah.
lo di yangchar dong yore
데
di
양짤
chaksa
양짤
che.
도야래.
That's right, yeah. But I think what she said before is like, so of course for them they have memorized these prayers, right? So as they're prostrating, they can memorize, and eventually if we do over and over again, we might be able to too. But we'll have 2 groups, and so like she'll be either sitting and doing the Tibetan as one group is prostrating, or I will be sitting and doing the Tibetan recitation while prostration. So there will always be somebody leading the chant. And then dini di kongso chaksa chepe kala ti pena gare di de pagir la ja ne yang na gande che kain sina kongso lo la
지난
marwa.
코란서 로라 유는 로란 또 로라면 차제선 니스차 양디 베차들다 아니 베차냠도 마초 마데 나지리 템나 랑나 에너지 셈데 나지리
So you can, though she said if
done.
you don't have it memorized, which I think none of us do, we can, she said that you can prostrate, and then you can, like look at the prayer, or you can spend some time sitting and kind of familiarize, or you can like hold it, kind of hold it in your hand and read it, and then like kind of put it down as you go, or you can see how it works. Just try to like, do it however it works. Or dini di nina yinji minji dongo grawati pena nini chaksa che chogomar.
잠잠 다 로라 메드 차 차나 지리
Yes.
망포 차나 양 조고 또라
Yeah. So she said, and
Tapa-
remember, if
ta- ta-
you don't have to overdo it with the prostration. So a lot of your time is going to be spent sitting and reciting this. And you can do you can alternate if it's too cumbersome to look at the text and do that as you're prostrating. You can spend some time sitting and reciting, and then do some prostrations and sort of try to follow along, as you become more familiar with the text. But you can also then take a break from prostrating and just sit and recite, because you might get hungry too, more hungry, if you do too many. Any other questions? Okay.
good okay that 차르라
So one thing I'll just say, as far as like, so for some people it's easy with the prostrations. We have pillows here, so you can put a pillow under your knees, and then I'll bring in also like some washcloths so that you can slide if you're prostrating on the wood floor. We have some really nifty sliders that have like plastic on them that you can use on the rugs. So I'm not sure how many of those I have. I'll try to collect some so that there's the option to use one or the other. And if you're going home and if you have like some, your favorite prostration materials, please bring them.
When your dad used to do them down, when the shrine was down there,
Mm-hmm.
the mitts and that are still in.
Oh, and the mitts are still in there. Oh, okay. Yeah, so maybe you can help us find those. There's some other, okay, thank you.
오케이 당 hoa 제거만
Uh,
좋아하면
So then if there aren't any other questions, then we will do the dedication prayer. Ngato chitang dena chik mato chegi umarwa de injike la dagdang korde tam cheki.
하나
Tigare buke dang injike nika chege.
이제
Any jangtu simcho sena?
Yeah.
So we'll do page 24, the bottom of the page. and page 25 in English, and then each one in English, and then Tibetan, and then we'll do the bodhicitta prayer on page 18. But first, on page 24 at the bottom. By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings, and samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. Teachings of the great Trikungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Yebegeve Zawante Dadan Simje Damje Nyurdana Mipa Yanda Barzo Basanjo Ramboje Tobarje
Sheja kun
Zekun Jin Chu Je Je Tem Drne Lavanto Drugompa Renjin Parje Tempa Sinte Par Shedra Tizangompa Jinjurje Gompa Namda
Then page Rang Chobje. Then 18.
Chukchi
Chubje. Or no, is it? What happened to, where is the bodhicitta? 19? 19, bottom of 19. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Jam
Josem Joram Poche Mahajipana Jinjuji Kihebanya Bamibaya Kohone Gantu Pevaisho
Jam
Joseph Joram Poche Majipana Jinjuji Jipanya Bamipaya Kohone Gantu Pevaisho. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so also those of you who are staying here tonight, who are doing the indoor camping, if anybody needs any sheets or blankets, please let me know. I don't know who do we have anyone who is, is anybody staying? No, because you're staying with Sean, right? Oh, okay, all right, great. Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's all set. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night. See you tomorrow.